In the deep hush that lingers just before dawn, a thin veil of frost clings to the cobbles and rooftops of a modest English village. It is a winter morning. Each step, each gesture, seems to belong to a rhythm deeper than thought, an unspoken dialogue with the morning itself. And he kneels and stirs it gently, coaxing a few embers to glow. A handful of kindling, a careful breath, and soon a soft flame dances within the grate, casting flickering shadows on the flagstone floor. It is the only art in the room, and its presence suggests a longing, perhaps, or a memory tied to youth. The waves in the print crash silently against an unseen shore, frozen in monochrome. A mug of tea, dark and strong, infused with just a touch of milk. He rinses his cup. He pulls on his sturdy leather boots, double-laced and patched at the toe. They have carried him countless miles and will carry him many more. Above them, the thick wool trousers are tucked neatly, and his coat is fastened all the way to the collar. Wipes the table clean with a cloth. He lifts his satchel. It is one of those ancient waterways that knows the shape of the land better than any man, cutting through fields and under roads, always whispering, always going. The cobbles glint. A milk cart rests outside the bakery, still unattended. He doesn't look up as the door opens, but murmurs a greeting all the same. The windows of the grocer's are shuttered, but smell faintly of apples and salt. In the far corner, beside the apothecary, the post office waits modest, squat and square, with a red-painted door and two tall, fog-blurred windows. The lane before him stretches quiet and still, the kind of stillness that belongs only to early morning. A hush that precedes bustle, like the breath drawn before a word is spoken. The letters are already sorted into bundles, those bound for the West Lane, the market quarter, the farms beyond the turnpike. He moves through them with quiet efficiency, fingers brushing over seals and stamps, gauging thickness, inspecting addresses. There is no rush in this place, only rhythm. When it is done, he tightens the flap, fastens the buckles, and replaces his coat. The stove has taken the chill off, but the outside world calls again. Is not yet. The oil lamp sputters above, casting long shadows across the stacks of envelopes on the counter. The sun, still hidden behind low clouds, casts a silvery light that softens everything it touches. Somewhere, a cart rolls slowly along the road, the horse's hooves clopping in deliberate cadence. Full only after a faded envelope addressed in delicate hand to Miss Eliza Grange, smells faintly of lavender and is sealed with blue wax. Another, rougher, carries the mark of a barracks post and is meant for a blacksmith's apprentice. His stop at the post office, will it bear the weight of letters? But its familiar heft is reassuring. The leather creaks softly, the buckles well-oiled and clean. It has its own stories, this satchel. Years of snow and sun, of rain-soaked trails and dusty lanes, of being passed over fences and into waiting hands, and sets the chair gently under. The ritual of tiding is each footfall is measured, careful on the incline. The green is lined with iron lamp posts, their glass still misted over from the night. A cat peers from beneath a carriage and blinks at his passing. The inn, still dark, has a lantern swinging from its sign, a wooden plaque painted with a faded lion rampant, as ingrained as breakfast, itself an act of respect for the space that shelters him. He eats slowly, watching as the sky beyond the window begins to lighten from ash gray to the faintest blue. The village, still hidden beneath mist and frost, begins to reveal itself, roof tiles glistening with dew. fence posts lined with rime, a lone dog trotting silently along the lane. He reaches for his cap, a simple pique d'affaires, black wool with a polished brass button on the front. He places it on his head, adjusts it slightly in the hallway mirror. The latch clicks. A blackbird flits across the lane, reluctantly. Curtains twitch. Smoke rises. Windows glow. But the postman is already on his way, his mind turned toward the day's first duty, the post office. A mile's walk down the hill and across the green, its wings brushing the hedgerow. Somewhere, the church clock begins to toll the half-hour, 5:30, and gives a small nod to his reflection. Not out of vanity, but out of acknowledgement. The postman is ready. A scrubbed wooden table, 2 chairs, a tall case clock that ticks slowly in the corner. A cupboard holds a few simple plates and bowls. There is a modest shelf of books by the window, mostly worn volumes of poetry and philosophy, spines faded from years of quiet reading. The sound of it heating is familiar, comforting, a gentle rising hum like a lullaby in reverse. While it boils, he slices a thick piece of bread from yesterday's loaf and places it on a toasting fork, holding it over the fire until it is crisp and golden. Year 1858. The church spire peeking over the trees, the field gate that groans when the wind leans too hard against it. These are sights he knows intimately, landmarks of a life quietly lived in service. The world. Outside still sleeps beneath a blanket of fog, each chimney capped in pale mist, every hedgerow stiff with cold. There is no sound save for the occasional rustle of wind through bare branches, and the distant hoot of a barn owl gliding into its roost. The houses along this quiet lane are modest brick or stone, with low eaves and small paned windows, nestled just beyond the edge of the village green. Ambrose Finch awakens not to the ring of an alarm or the clang of a bell, but to the gentle rhythm of habit. A narrow bed of iron and brass, its joints cold to the touch. A small knit-stand with a ceramic jug and basin last night's water, frozen lightly at the rim. A wardrobe, its doors slightly ajar, revealing a single black coat, a pair of neatly folded trousers, and a hat that has weathered many seasons. His body, seasoned by routine, stirs naturally at this early hour, long before the sun crests the horizon. He lies still for a moment beneath a quilted blanket, listening to the stillness of the room, the hush that only exists before the world awakens. A light flickers softly behind a heavy curtain. The lamp is faint, his breath visible in the glow of the lamp. With deliberate slowness, Mr. Finch swings his legs from the bed and stands. The wooden floor beneath him is cool and faintly creaks as he crosses to the wash basin. He pours a trickle of water into the bowl and splashes his face, wincing gently at the chill. A rough towel dries his weathered skin, and then he begins to dress layer by layer. Long woolen undergarments, thick stockings, shirt and trousers, then the heavy wool coat lined with faded flannel. Just a small flame licking the base of a glass chimney, but it is enough to signal the start of the day for its solitary inhabitant. Some shuttered, others with lace curtains drawn. Most have been here for a generation or two, their chimneys leaning slightly with age, their doors worn smooth by the passing of time and touch. In one of these houses, His bedroom is sparse, but well kept. The air in the room is crisp, his movements are slow, almost ceremonial. Not from age, though he is no longer young, but from care. Downstairs, the house is still darker. The hearth, banked the night before with ash and coal, has retained some warmth. The small kitchen is as humble as the man himself. Above the mantel, an old print of the sea hangs in a plain wooden frame. He sets the kettle on the trivet above the fire and waits. His breakfast is simple: toast, buttered sparingly, a soft-boiled egg. Mr. Finch gazes out the window, between bites his eyes, scanning the familiar corners of the village. The path to the post office once finished. In the hall, from a hook near the door, at last he draws open the front door with a creak that no longer surprises him. The outside air is sharp, and his breath rises in faint clouds. He steps out and closes the door gently behind him. The day begins. The village awakens slowly. The grass is slick beneath his boots. He crosses a narrow footbridge, its boards damp with condensation. Below, the brook gurgles softly over stones. As he climbs the other side, the village square unfolds before him like a page turned slowly. He reaches it at last. Mr. Bauer, the postmaster, is already inside, hunched over the sorting bench with a pair of wire spectacles perched low on his nose. Morning, Ambrose. Morning. There is no need for more. Their rapport is built on quiet, on trust, on the kind of companionship that grows from shared hours rather than shared words. The post office interior is dim but orderly. Shelves of pigeonholes line the walls, each labeled with a parish or a name. Mr. Finch shrugs off his coat, hangs it by the stove, and warms his hands for a moment before beginning the day's preparations. Each envelope is a story waiting to be delivered. Some are businesslike records, orders, ledgers. Others are deeply personal. He fills the satchel slowly, not hurriedly. He nods once to Mr. Bauer. Until midday, With that, he steps out once more into the morning. The sky is pale now, the mist lifting. The village is beginning to move. A shutter claps open. A boy chases a chicken across the green, and Mr. Finch begins his walk. Not hurried, never hurried, but with purpose, with a deep awareness of what he carries. Letters, words, hopes, news, and with them, the first true breath of day. The door to the post office creaks open with the familiar complaint of hinges, releasing the mingled scent of lamp oil, aged parchment, and a lingering trace of pipe tobacco. Mr. Finch steps inside, closing the door gently behind him. A low clunk echoes as the latch falls into place, a small grounding sound, part of the daily rhythm he has known for years. He removes his coat and cap, hanging them on a tall oak peg near the stove, then places his satchel on the bench by the sorting table. He takes a moment to warm his hands near the cast-iron stove, the metal hissing faintly as he rubs his palms together. The fire has only recently been lit, and the warmth is still tentative. The light within is modest, the schoolhouse lane. A long brass ruler lies across one end, beside a cluster of twine, sealing wax, and blotting sand. The letters are already sorted into regional bundles, carried in by a courier who arrived in the gray of early morning, long before the village stirred. Mr. Bauer had received them in silence, alone under the flickering lamp, and now they await Mr. Finch's practiced hand. He takes a breath and then begins. The ink, still faintly pungent, tells of urgency or leisure. Another, tied with green string, carries a faint scent of tobacco and bears the stamp of the India mail, perhaps a son writing from Calcutta or a brother from Madras. Such letters travel farther than most feet ever will. Some handwriting is elegant, some blocky, some nervous. He reads the names to himself softly, lips barely moving. The fire pops gently. A fly buzzes drowsily against the window pane. Time passes, not quickly, but peacefully, with the grace of a candle slowly consuming itself. A single oil lamp on the wall flickers within its glass shade, its glow casting soft amber shadows across the wooden interior. Just a small sprig of pressed rosemary tied to the seal. He lays it flat on the bench and opens it with care, folding back the flap to reveal its linen-lined interior. Each root is layered in order of delivery, each corner tucked for easy reach. The final weight settles across his shoulders not like a burden, but like a reminder of his place, his path, his purpose. The satchel is his partner on the road. Its balance must be right, its weight evenly distributed, its contents secure against wind and rain. A loose envelope could mean a lost story, a misplaced dispatch, a missed farewell. He studies it for a moment longer than the others, before gently sliding it beneath a length of twine and setting it aside. Letters waiting to be written, parcels waiting to be claimed. Behind each name in the pigeonholes, a life unfolds quietly, patiently, without fanfare. The windows are still misted over from the night. He signs the dispatch record with a dip pen, the nib scratching softly on the parchment. His memory holds the map of this village, not just in paths and plots, but in people. Who has moved, who is away at sea, who now receives letters in care of another. The latch clicks again, a perfect mirror of its morning counterpart. The square is brighter now. A baker's boy whistles, swinging a basket of warm loaves. One name, one path, one envelope at a time. A farmer leads a dappled horse past the pump. The village has begun to stir in earnest. The condensation beating faintly on the glass. A still place, a necessary place, filled not with noise but with intention, blurring the view of the village square outside. A familiar weight of wool and leather grounds him. The cap follows, tilted slightly forward to shield his eyes from the pale glare of the morning. The stone floor is cool underfoot, laid in uneven flagstones that have borne the weight of many boots over the years. The post office is not grand. It is not meant to be. Bauer, the postmaster, sits at the central counter, spectacles balanced at the tip of his nose. He does not look up as Mr. Finch enters. He does not need to. The rhythm of their morning is one built on habit and silence, not words. It is a space of function, of quiet duty. Yet there is comfort in its order, in the creak of its beams and the warmth of its walls. Everything within has a place envelope stacked precisely, wax-sealed dispatches resting neatly in wooden trays, and ledgers lying open upon desks lined with inkwells and brass pens. Mr. Morning, Ambrose. Mr. Rows of wooden pigeonholes line the wall, each labeled with meticulous hand. There is a calm geometry to them, like a honeycomb built for paper, for passage, for thought. Some slots hold letters destined for the next parish. Others are reserved for regular correspondence. The vicar, the magistrate, the widow on Northwick Lane. The oldest box, still marked Darnley Farm, remains empty, its last recipient having passed 2 winters ago. Yet no one has changed the label. Bauer, comes the equally soft reply. He murmurs, voice graveled from years of early hours and the quiet solitude of his post. Morning, behind the postmaster, Mr. Finch crosses the room slowly, his boots clicking softly against the stones. The bench beside him is wide and worn, scarred with ink stains and marks from letter knives. Sorting the Morning Post is not a hurried affair. It is a ritual, a slow unfolding of the day's whispers and words. Each envelope is lifted, turned, examined. Miss Esther Wilkins, Captain R.K. Colton, Oldfield Manor, Master Henry Dawes, apprentice to the smith. He places each letter in its appropriate pile. Westfield, then Hill Road, then the farms near the watermill. There is one letter marked simply, "To be left at the corner shop, for Sarah M." No surname. No return address. Some of the parcels are thicker. One contains folded patterns from a dressmaker in Bath. Occasionally, Mr. Bower mutters a name, alerting Mr. Finch to a change. James Hutton moved last week. He's lodging at the public house now. Mr. Finch nods, making a quiet correction in the margin of his internal map. They speak little else. The silence is not awkward. It is warm and lived in, like a quilt passed from shoulder to shoulder. When the sorting is complete, Mr. Finch reaches for the satchel. It is a humble object, worn but strong. Its leather has grown soft and dark with age, the brass buckles dulled but unbroken. Into this he places the letters, not haphazardly, but with precision. He folds a protective oilcloth over the contents and fastens the buckles with a firm, practiced tug. In the corner, the long ledger awaits a great book of names and notes, worn at the spine and edged in dust. Dispatched, 7:10 a.m. The ink shines briefly before he dusts it with blotting sand. Another small ritual complete. At last he stands, lifts the satchel to his shoulder, and dons his coat once more. Before he leaves, he takes one last glance around the post office. It is not empty. It is never empty. It hums with silent stories. Mr. Bower looks up and offers a rare full sentence. "Mind the north fields ground soft from last night's freeze." Mr. Finch nods. "I'll take the upper path past the granary." The postmaster grunts, satisfied. Their code is quiet, but understood. Mr. Finch opens the door. As Mr. Finch steps out into the waking day, the satchel pressed firmly to his side, the post office behind him resumes its quiet vigil. And so begins the postman's true work, not simply the carrying of letters, but the weaving of invisible threads that bind a village together. The satchel rests securely on Mr. Finch's shoulder, the strap worn smooth with years of use. The leather creaks faintly as he adjusts it, and he casts one last glance over the village square before stepping forward. The bell above the baker's shop rings gently as the door is opened from within. A curl of warm, yeasty air drifts out onto the lane, chased by a sleepy boy carrying a tray of fresh loaves. Mr. Finch walks steadily past him with a brief nod. No words are exchanged. None are needed. This morning, like all mornings, unfolds in quiet rhythm. The cobbles are slick in places, polished by years of cartwheels and boot heels. Between the stones, small patches of moss have taken hold velvety green against the gray, quietly thriving. The lane beneath his boots is still damp from the morning dew. He turns onto the narrow path that leads away from the heart of the village, beyond the stone well and the smithy's low, wide shop. The air is sharp, bracing, the kind of air that wakes you not with a jolt, but with a slow, clear breath. "From Devon," she explains, though he hasn't asked. She writes every fortnight. His boots now taking him along the back path toward the old orchard. Never fails. Young people these days? Not all of them are so dependable. Thatched roofs give way to open fields. Dry stone walls rise along the edges of the lane, their tops crusted with lichen and fern. Then, she says, The scent of porridge drifts from the open chimney. Apple turnovers. Along one of these walls, a solitary crow perches, feathers ruffled against the cold. It watches Mr. Finch pass with the steady gaze of a creature that knows all the movements of the land. I made too many yesterday. After a brief pause, she smiles again. Here, the grass is tall and golden, waving gently in the breeze. Beneath it, the ground is uneven, rutted from carts in the summer and hoof-pressed in the fall. The road is never the same. It changes with the season, with the light, with the scent of the air. The postman walks not just to deliver letters, but to bind a place to itself, to keep each corner connected by the thread of human voice, sealed in paper, carried by hand. It belongs to the Harrows, an old couple, who have lived here since before Mr. Finch began his rounds. Here, birds are more active, flitting through branches, calling to one another. The light filters through the canopy in broken beams, casting shifting patterns on the ground. The village lies far behind now, visible only in outline chimneys rising like quills against the horizon. The next house, the farthest on this morning's route, is a low stone dwelling tucked into the crook of a hillside. It is quiet, still, the kind of home that seems part of the earth itself. He stops at their gate, unlatches it carefully so it doesn't squeal, and walks up the path to leave a package just outside the door. Some days it is bright with sunlight, shadows long and crisp beneath the trees. Mr. Finch's satchel is lighter now, though not quite empty. He delivers a slim envelope to their daughter, a girl of 11 with pale freckles and a cat that trails her like a shadow. She greets him with a practiced curtsy and hands him a neatly bundled stack of outgoing responses to birthday invitations and a note to an uncle in Bristol. One of them pauses as he passes, shyly holding out a letter for her cousin in another parish. The paper is folded twice and sealed with a bright pink ribbon. He takes it gently, tucks it into the satchel, and offers a small nod of assurance. A few letters remain, those destined for the last homes on his loop. A cup of tea is offered, accepted without words. The room smells of lanolin and spinning oil, the low click of the loom echoing beneath their quiet sips. The frost has given way to dew. The sounds of work have returned, the ring of a hammer, the chatter of hens, a door being closed with purpose. Mr. Finch stays no longer than 5 minutes. When he stands to go, the weaver gives a nod of thanks that means more than any speech. Here, he delivers the last of the letters, one to a gardener, another to the midwife who lives near the apothecary. The lamplighter's boy sits on a barrel, eating a pear and watching the clouds shift. The world, it seems, is both older and newer than it was that morning. Connection, even unspoken, still lingers like heat in the embers of a hearth. The satchel is empty save for a few outgoing replies. His shoulders feel the difference. It is a lightness earned, not taken. They are a life built gently, quietly, like ivy climbing a wall. Each day is much like the one before, yet no two are ever truly the same. The post office lies ahead, its red door now wide open, the air inside warm and smelling faintly of sealing wax. The satchel rests beside him, the last few letters tucked within like the final verses of a well-composed hymn. He draws a small notebook from his pocket and writes a single line, nothing dramatic, nothing poetic, just an observation. The sound of his boots is gentler now on the thawing ground. He carries not only ink on paper, but connection in its most humble form. The postman's steps grow slower, not from fatigue, but from reverence. This part of the day, between the last delivery and the return, is his own. Insects, silent at dawn, begin to stir. A bee buzzes lazily from one winter-blossomed hellebore to the next. From here, the entire village lies below chimneys puffing, horses pulling carts through the lanes, smoke curling from the forge, and the pale outline of the chapel on the far hill. Others, it is soaked in rain, puddles reflecting the gray sky like dull mirrors. The gate is heavy wrought iron, slow to open, its hinges long accustomed to disuse. He leaves a letter in the hollow of a brick beside the door, an agreed-upon place, since the occupant, an elderly man named Walter Bramlett, prefers not to be disturbed until afternoon. Nods, the frost has not yet melted, and the low sun gleams off the frozen ground like light brushed over porcelain. He watches the pattern of birds in flight, the glimmer of ice on a gate hinge, the tracks of a fox freshly pressed into the mud. These are his companions. They speak without sound, but their stories are clear to anyone who listens long enough. The trees are bare, their limbs etched against the sky. From somewhere in the distance comes the lowing of cattle, carried on the wind, and slowly retreats into her home. The door closes behind her with a soft click. She holds out a small package wrapped in oilcloth. Beyond them, fields stretch lazily into the mist, some dotted with grazing sheep, others fallow and waiting for spring. His coat flutters lightly in the wind, the thick wool catching flecks of frost that haven't yet melted from the hedges. As he walks, the buildings fall away behind him. A narrow brook gurgles quietly over stones. It weaves through the meadow like a silver thread, its banks lined with reeds and the occasional duck. And then the door opens to reveal a woman in her 70s, wrapped in a thick shawl, invites stillness. His eyes follow the current, watching the way the sun still pale and cold strikes the ripples and scatters across the surface. It is not a race, not a route timed to the second. It is a path measured by feet and feeling, by habit and heartbeat. Each house he visits is like a stone placed gently in a stream, each letter a ripple passing outwards. His first delivery of the day is to a cottage that stands alone beside an elder tree. Its windows are small and square, lace curtains drawn halfway, the road sloping gently upward, taking him to the edge of the village proper and into the first of the farmlands. Here the trees grow taller and more widely spaced. Their limbs reach like arms across the path, forming a kind of natural corridor through which Mr. Finch passes each morning. The door is painted robin's egg blue, chipped at the edges, with a small iron knocker in the shape of a lion's head. He lifts the knocker, gently 3 soft taps. From within there is a shuffle of feet, the scrape of a stool. "Morning, Mr. Finch," she says with a smile as warm as the hearth behind her. Without hurry, a red brick building with ivy creeping over its southern wall. Mr. Finch treads up the drive, his boots crunching on gravel, and stops just before the kitchen door. He places 2 letters on the sill, held down with a small stone. One is addressed to the eldest son, away studying mechanics in a northern town. The other is a bill for feed, written in a stiff, formal hand. He moves on. "Mrs. Tilling," he replies, pulling a small envelope from the satchel. It is pale gray, sealed with a fine, looping hand. She takes it as though it were gold. "My niece." She tucks the envelope into her apron pocket with the gentleness of someone placing a keepsake. "For you." He accepts them with a quiet thanks. He places the wrapped bundle in the satchel beside the outgoing mail and continues onward. This is not a road of urgency. He follows the rise of the land. to his left. He pauses briefly on the footbridge that crosses it. He has always paused here. Something in the sound of the water, or the open sky above. Then, further up the hill lies the Cooper farm. From inside comes the clatter of dishes and the soft bleating of a lamb, likely brought in for the warmth. He walks on. The fields stretch wider now, hemmed in by low stone walls, some of which have partially collapsed into time-worn heaps. And still the postman walks. To walk each day through the same lanes, the same weathered tracks, is not to see the same world. But today, the world holds its breath in a state of fragile stillness. Mr. Finch is not a man of many words. But as he walks, he holds an internal dialogue with the land itself. He reaches a stile, climbs over it slowly, and steps onto a narrower trail that threads between two meadows. Midway through this field lies a stone cottage with a sloped roof and smoke curling from its chimney. He doesn't knock. He'll find it in time. There is something holy in the act of walking, of moving forward with no great urgency, only purpose. It is a form of devotion, not to destination, but to process. As he continues, the path narrows into a winding wooded track, lined with beech trees and hawthorn. Mr. Finch passes through this dappled world as though in a dream, the letters nestled against his chest, the satchel swaying with each step. He meets no one on this stretch. It is his favorite part of the journey. The world is hushed, and time seems to bend gently around him. The wooded trail gives way to open sky once more, and Mr. Finch steps out of the shadows and into pale sunlight that slants across the hills. He approaches it with the same measured steps he's taken all morning. As he walks away, a curtain shifts. Mr. Finch does not look back, but a soft smile plays at the edge of his mouth. The curtain settles again. The sun climbs a little higher. Light now spills across the frost-laced grass, casting long, silver-tipped shadows from hedgerow to gate. He walks. The return path bends along a gentle slope, tracing the stream's course as it threads toward the village edge. The Jones family lives in a cottage near the mill, a place that smells always of wood smoke and sourdough. Further on, at the weaver's cottage, he is invited briefly in. Back on the road, he finds a group of schoolchildren crossing a stile ahead, their voices soft as they recite morning verses, likely walking toward the chapel schoolhouse. The countryside seems to exhale now. The energy of morning is past, and a mellow stillness settles over the land. He walks a little off the path, climbing to a small rise crowned by a hawthorn tree. He removes his cap and sits for a moment beneath the hawthorn. Sunshine on Branley's chimney at noon. A good omen. He closes the book, places it back in his coat, and rests his eyes for a moment. When Mr. Finch rises and begins his descent back toward the village, the world feels slightly warmer, slightly more awake. He walks slowly down the hill, taking the outer lane that curves past the grange. By the time he reaches the square once more, the hour is well past midday. The baker has stacked his last loaves in the window. Mr. Finch crosses the square in silence, his boots tapping a slow, steady rhythm across the cobblestones. This road, these fields, these paths, these boots, they are not just routes and rolls. He does not deliver speeches. He delivers letters. But in doing so, he delivers something far greater continuity, memory, hope, and as the last shadow of morning slips away behind him, Mr. Finch steps into the quiet embrace of afternoon, where the letters have all found their homes, and the road for now lies behind him. The village stands beneath the low-hanging sky, like a page turned slowly into twilight. The chimneys breathe their soft smoke upward into the cooling air, and the last warmth of sunlight glows faintly behind the hills, painting the edges of stone and window with a quiet amber. The bell is soft, unhurried, and seems more like a whisper of time than its measure. Inside, the oil lamp has been trimmed, and a new log crackles in the stove. Mr. Bauer, the postmaster, sits at the long desk, spectacles removed and set neatly beside his ledger. His chair creaks softly as he shifts to greet Mr. Finch with the smallest of nods. Conversation in this place is not a necessity but a choice, one made sparingly and with care. Their silence is companionable, filled not with absence but with presence. He carries his satchel at his side now, emptied of the morning's burden, but not yet at rest. There is sorting still to be done, paper to be weighed and measured, records to be noted in the thick ledger that holds the heartbeat of the village in neat black script. There are still letters to send outgoings, gathered from porches, handed over by schoolchildren, and exchanged in glances from gloved hands and garden gates. Mr. Finch stands beside him, passing the letters one by one across the desk. The scratching of the quill is the only sound in the room for several minutes, aside from the occasional sigh of the wind outside, pressing softly at the panes. Mr. Finch returns to the village square just as the clock above the chapel strikes 4, and ties it with a length of twine that he snaps off with a practiced flick. He sets the bundle in a leather mail pouch, cinched with brass rings. A label, handwritten, is tied to the strap, "To be collected evening coach." His face is half hidden by a scarf, but his eyes are familiar. They have made this exchange many times. No fanfare, no ceremony, just a silent handoff and the light tap of the driver's hand against the leather to test the weight. He opens the back of the coach, places the pouch among others, then closes it firmly. The wheels crunch over gravel, then fade into the hush of distance. And when he, too, was younger, his own limbs more nimble, his steps less deliberate, watches them become part of a larger web stretching far beyond this village. Cities, ports, foreign shores. And yet, somehow, it all begins here, with ink and hands, with seal and satchel. The post office door stands open to the fading light. The evening coach. His steps are slower now, not from fatigue, but from stillness. The kind of stillness that grows at the edges of routine, when all is done and there is nothing more to press forward toward. He returns the satchel to its hook on the wall, emptied now, its work done. Each bite tastes of cinnamon, of butter, of kindness freely given. He reads not to finish, but to rest in the sentences. A line from Wordsworth, a paragraph from Cooper. The flickering candlelight casts soft shadows across the wall, and outside the wind rustles faintly through the hedgerows. Back then, the village is preparing for night. Doors are shut, curtains drawn. His cap is hung, his gloves placed in the small drawer beside the desk. The last candle is snuffed with a quiet hiss. Its lanterns burn gold against the gathering dark, and the shape of the carriage emerges like a memory from the mist. Drawn by 2 chestnut horses, their breath curling visibly into the cold air. The coach pulls up before the post office with a practiced halt. The lamplighter's boy walks the lanes with his pole and wick, setting each glass lantern aglow with a gentle hiss and a flick of orange flame. A dog barks once, then curls up beneath a porch. The bakery is dark, its ovens cooling. The forge has long since gone silent, its coals extinguished. One by one, the lamps blink to life, like stars drawing breath. Mr. Finch nods. A quiet day, turned milder near the Harrow's field. He sets about the quiet rituals of evening. He relights the hearth with the skill of someone who has done it 1,000 times. He removes his boots, places them by the door, lines them up neatly. He pours a small basin of warm water, washes his hands, his face. The two men exchange no more words for the moment. Mr. Finch moves to the sorting bench once more. He places each letter gently in the outgoing tray. His fingers brush the edges of envelopes from every corner of the village, a baker's invoice, a schoolchild's hand-drawn card, a perfumed letter, folded in thirds and sealed with violet wax. Mrs. Tilling gave him that morning, the apple turnovers now slightly flattened, the edges sweet with syrup. He sets them beside the stove for later, a quiet indulgence earned not with reward, but with repetition. Each will travel far beyond this place. Each carries a voice that cannot walk the miles on its own. He reaches into the satchel, for the last time that day, and retrieves the small bundle of folded linen. Business of sending is not so different from the business of receiving. Mr. Bauer takes up his pen and begins to transcribe. Name, date, destination. When the final letter is recorded, Mr. Bauer closes the ledger with care, wraps the outgoing bundle in a sheet of waxed paper. The clock now reads 5:15. The mail coach will arrive shortly, its wheels and harnesses a muffled thunder, long before its lights are seen. Mr. Finch steps outside into the twilight, the cold air bracing against his cheeks. The postman watches him for a time, remembering when that boy's father lit the same lamps. In the distance now, he hears the sound. It is not yet clear, but it is coming, the rhythmic beat of hooves on packed earth, the squeak of a heavy wheel, the low jangle of a bit and harness. The mail coach arrives just after the last bell of the chapel rings. The driver, wrapped in a greatcoat, nods once to Mr. Finch. Mr. Bauer brings out the pouch of outgoing mail. Mr. Finch watches, as he always does, watches the letters leave. The coach driver offers a brief wave, mounts the carriage, and with a gentle whistle and snap of the reins, the horses begin to move. Silence returns. Mr. Finch draws the latch, closing the red-painted door behind him. He removes his coat and folds it carefully over his arm. Mr. Bauer locks the ledger cabinet. They nod to each other, once more. No need for farewell. Their parting is as routine as their greeting. Until morning, Mr. Finch says. Mr. Bauer does not reply. He merely lifts a hand as he stoops to tend the stove. The night has deepened as Mr. Finch makes his way home. He passes houses lit from within. Shadows move behind curtains. A violin plays somewhere faintly. At his cottage, he opens the door and steps inside, greeted by the residual warmth of the morning fire, now only coals, barely glowing. On the table, he unwraps the apple turnovers. He eats slowly, not because he is especially hungry, but because he is especially present. Afterward, he sits with a book, the pages worn from rereading. Eventually, the book closes. The candle is snuffed. He climbs the narrow stairs, the bed turned down, the linen cold but clean. He lies back, folding his hands on his chest, and listens. There are no carts, no voices, no bells. Only the quiet breathing of a village in sleep. Only the gentle stillness of a man who has done his work. Each letter sent, each mile walked, each door passed. A life made not of grand events, but of gentle consistency. A day begun with frost and ended with firelight. A life of footsteps, of ink, of silence shared across distance. A postman's life. And so the night holds him gently, and the world, for now, is still.